Hey folks, so I've unfortunately got to make a very quick video here because the YouTuber Vorsh has been spreading like actual Nazi anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, and then he made another video where he doubled down on them, so I kind of need to refute those really quick. I think it's pretty important. So for a bit of context, he was having a debate with another YouTuber, Non-Compete, and he somehow steered the conversation to this ridiculous question of if the Holocaust would have been justified if Nazi conspiracy theories about Jews were true. Now, Non-Compete wasn't having any of that, and who can blame him? But that's the context. And as a part of that debate, he said this.
Their ideology was not aligned with reality.
How can you tell?
Because Jews don't actually control banks in the world.
There was a disproportionate number of Jewish control of banks in Germany during the Weimar Republic.
All right, Vosh, we're done here. Thank you. Goodbye.
Now, it would be one thing to say as a hypothetical, but what if they did? But what if the Nazis are right about their conspiracy theories? But he didn't do that. He outright stated it as fact. But, maybe he misspoke. Maybe he doesn't actually believe that. But, well, he released a follow-up video where he confirms that he does actually believe that. And I'm going to play clips from that video now where, absolutely beyond any reasonable doubt, he outright says that he believes that that is true.
The critical thing here is that for me saying that there was a disproportionate amount of Jewish control of the banks in the Weimar Republic, a bunch of people online are calling me a Nazi. Everywhere. It's like a whole meme thing. And the weird thing is, as I understood when going into the debate and then have looked into and have found that, yes, this is the case, there was. I get very uncomfortable imagining a left where you're having an argument with a Nazi, and Nazism's on the rise right now, in some ways at least. So these are things that we might have to contend with. Tucker Carlson's screaming about white genocide, on his massively viewed show. I don't think this is something we can afford to have no good arguments against.
He also implies that anyone who cares about him spreading Nazi conspiracy theories would therefore support the Holocaust if that were true.
This is really weird to me because what it's telling me is, first of all, that I guess a lot of people seem to believe that the only reason the Nazis were wrong was because there wasn't a sufficient amount of Jewish control. Like for you guys, I ask you, what percentage of Jewish involvement in banks would be necessary for you to justify the Holocaust? Is that where you draw your line?
No, that's not how it works. If you make a false claim, you make a false claim of fact, people are allowed to refute your false claim, your false damaging claim, your support of an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory, even without agreeing with whatever ridiculous gotcha you were going for in that moment, okay? So that's just a fallacy. Anyway, I'm going to explain how all of this is completely false. Jews factually did not control banking or whatever in Weimar Germany. That's just true. This was a Nazi lie. Now, obviously, fascists lie a lot, and you can't take anything they say at face value. There might be, some sort of little kernel of truth in what they say, but they're always going to be manipulating the final facts. And that's what the case is here. So what actually happened here is that Jews disproportionately controlled 43% of private banks. Now that probably sounds bad. Ha ha ha. Gotcha, right? Well, no. A private bank is essentially a wealth management service for rich people. It's not an actual everyday banking institution. It's a much smaller sort of institution. In many respects, these were actual small businesses that just manages money on behalf of wealthy clients, investing it for them, holding it for them, the same way that the rich person would hire a maid to do their cleaning for them. They would hire a private bank to do their finance stuff for them, so they don't have to think about it that much. So when we talk about private banking, we're not really talking about banking as most of us would think of it. We're more talking about sort of exclusive wealth management services, and they had far less sway over the overall economy like actual, more traditional, what we would think of as banks had. When it came down to those, Jews controlled less than 1% of the management positions in the actual banks, these being state banks, joint stock banks, and credit institutions that serve functions that most of us would traditionally understand as banking. Now, even if we took this at face value, during the Weimar Republic, private banks were not only declining, but their market share was tiny, even relative to these other ones. So for Vosch to say here that Jews really did control the banks, as the Nazis said, what he's doing is spreading Nazi manipulation of these statistics, because in terms of actual market share here, Jews factually did not control the banks, okay? Only if you go by raw number and just completely ignore the fact that a private bank is not what Vosch and others probably think it is. And raw numbers tell you nothing about market share. They don't tell you anything about overall economic importance, nothing like that. So if you say that Jews controlled the banks in Weimar Germany, and then you say that that was actually factually true, what you're doing there is just letting Nazis manipulate the statistics to spread a false narrative of Jewish control of the economy. And that is what Vosch is supporting here, by just uncritically accepting this without thinking about it for 2 seconds. He didn't even cite a single source in his actual edited follow-up video. He's not on-stream follow-up video. He didn't cite a single source. He just said it's true. No, it's not. It's factually not. It's Nazi manipulation of the statistics. Nazis lying about what the statistics mean. If you were to look at actual market share of the whole sort of financial sector, you wouldn't get more than 2 or 3% in the hands of, or being managed by Jewish people. But Vosch looks at this and he's like, this constitutes control. 45%? Wow. They were definitely in control of the economy. He doesn't think about what private banks were. Doesn't think about if they were really even banks at all. We don't think about things like market share. This is a fallacious lie. It's like saying, for example, that small grocers control the grocery industry because there's more of them compared to grocery chains. Now, I don't know whether that's true or not, but for the sake of argument, let's assume that it is. Obviously, that wouldn't mean they control the industry because, each individual grocery store, independent grocery store, is obviously generally going to have a far lower market share than each individual chain grocery store. So that is an incredibly misleading argument to make. That's exactly what's going on here. Not only that, but as I said, most importantly, private banking is just wealth management for rich people, or at least it was back then in Weimar Germany. So what we have here is the Nazis constructing a lie based on misleading statistics. Now, it's very easy to lie with statistics, okay? And this is an excellent case of it. Fascists, this is what they do. They lie. So of course they're going to lie with statistics. To take this at face value and spread it as fact is abominable. To double down on it twice in one video without even trying to actually argue your point, providing a source or something at least people can argue against, just stating it as truth. Also abominable. You don't gotta give the Nazis credit for being correct or whatever on anything, let alone just for the sake of making a stupid gotcha argument against someone. You don't have to double down on everything you say. It's factually wrong. Vosch and people defending him are engaging in practically the exact same manipulation of the statistics as the Nazis did. They're saying, look, 45% of German private banks, well, they definitely controlled the economy, they definitely controlled the banks, without actually looking at the bigger picture of what private banks were, their relative unimportance compared to the much larger joint stock banks and credit institutions, etc., their market share, etc., etc. Just look at the number, we're correct, they really do control the economy. It's completely ridiculous, and honestly, the level of ego that you need to have to double down on something like this is just completely absurd. Off the charts. Anyway, so please don't fall for fascist lies, even if your favorite streamer is repeating them. On first glance, it might not look like a lie, but when you think about it for 2 seconds, it's pretty evidently a lie. And this is how fascists work, Like, not just fascists. I mean, anyone can manipulate statistics to say what they want them to say, to imply what they want them to imply. This is an awesome case of that, a great example. And you need to apply your critical thinking skills to Nazi claims like this, rather than just accepting them at face value because you see a big number in a statistic, okay? Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. See ya.